Fleming for Canada, scores! France went the right way, she couldn't keep it out. Big problems here for the United States in this semi-final.
And welcome to Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast about news, narratives, takes, and gambling, just what's going on in the world of sports. I'm Nick Andrews. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and a bunch of other places at Interesting to See. All that will be in the show notes. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. Some storylines from the Olympics. We're also going to look at some more NFL preview stuff. Why Belarus is such a sketchy place, but we're going to start today with gambling in sports. I'm not sure if you saw this over the weekend, but it's a pretty big story, very similar to Pete Rose. NHL hockey player Evander Kane, who played for the San Jose Sharks, his wife went to Instagram essentially to roast him. They appear like their marriage is not doing so well. He said in a response to her that called her a soon-to-be ex-wife. She alleged that he was gambling on his own games and basically outed him for being a gambling addict. She did it in Instagram stories. The NHL is investigating. He denied it. So here's what the post, I'm not going to read all of it, but essentially she is saying that he's partying in Europe. Remember, he's a pretty good player. He's not crazy good, but he's a good player. He signed a 7-year, $49 million contract with the Sharks in 2019. He's being sued for $500,000 in debt for a Vegas casino, and he filed for bankruptcy in California in January 2021. It's like months ago. So his finances are not great right now. He doesn't see his daughter that often, I guess. He's in Europe right now partying, and apparently his wife is done with him, outing him for potentially being a gambling addict. She then alleged that he was purposely tanking on the ice to lose games so that he could bet against the San Jose Sharks and win money. And it's an explosive allegation. Obviously, everyone around him has denied it, because if he were guilty of this, denying it, if being found guilty of this by the NHL, not by a court of law or the civil court, if they suspected that this happened, we all know what happened to Pete Rose. Not only did they kick him out of the sport, they kind of erased his legacy in a huge way. So, this is a massive deal. And to be very frank with you, I'm surprised this kind of thing doesn't happen more. I remember very clearly when I was 18 going to Texas playing the University of Wyoming, and it was Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley, if you remember Jordan Shipley and Gerald McCoy and all those guys. And the spread was like 42, and they won by 41. And I thought, man, if you were Colt McCoy, you could totally manipulate that. There's a lot of ways to do that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's the same as true for Evander Kane. I don't think that he is good enough to completely decide the outcomes of NHL games, because if he were, he would be on teams that win more games. But this is an explosive allegation right here. All right, let's move to the Olympics. A couple interesting things happened over the weekend if you're watching on YouTube, which you can do if you'd like. It's these two men hugging right here. This is from the Wall Street Journal and a bunch of other places that have great shots of it. The high jumpers in the Olympics tied for the gold medal. So this is how this works, I suppose. And this has happened in history before, because like if you're racing or whatever, and I know in skiing it happens, even a thousandth of a second, people can tie. So what happened, I guess, is these two guys were jumping for the gold, and they had gotten higher than everybody else, but then they raised the bar to another level, and neither of them could get it. So the only solution after they had both tried and failed 3 times was to keep going at it till one of you gets it, or I guess to lower it to one of you get. They had to keep going till they got it. It's like theoretically they were in a stalemate. So there's a rule in the Olympics where you can agree to share a gold, and they did. And I'll pull the picture up again. It's just really cool. They essentially treated each other like they were teammates, jumping in each other's arms like that. It was an incredible moment, and it kind of shows that not every sport is all about competition. They're not zero-sum games where there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. They both accomplished something. They agreed that they accomplished something. I believe, if memory serves, we were looking at an Italian man and a man from Qatar. Gianmarco Tamburelli and Mutes Barshim are co-gold medalists in the high jump. It's very cool to watch them. If you can find the video, the Olympics are very protective about their copyright, so really hard to find the highlights. If you can find the video, watching them jump into each other's arms was really cool. Probably the coolest accomplishment at the Olympics, Safin Hassan, who is from the Netherlands, was running the mile or the 1500, 4 laps, and into the final turn, she fell and was rolling on the ground, right? So she just took a tumble. It happens in track all the time. She then got up and realized, uh-oh, that's bad. And as a result of that, she got up and roasted everybody. It was one of the most amazing feats of athleticism I've ever seen. Watching it live, I wasn't watching it live. I've only seen the highlights on Twitter. It must have been honestly remarkable because she was on the ground for the final lap of the mile and is behind everybody, gets up and beats everybody. Just absolutely crazy stuff. The Olympics really are amazing. So last story from the Olympics, we're going to talk about Belarus. This woman, her name is Kristina Semenuskaya. She criticized her coaches, and then the Belarusian team got mad at her and forced her to go to the airport, where she freaked out and contacted the IOC. And the IOC said, well, we're not going to make you go home, because she was worried for her life if she went back to Belarus after criticizing her coach. And Tokyo, and I think Poland. So Tokyo's taking care of her. Poland offered her a visa. It just goes to show us how important the freedom of speech is. And for those of you that don't pay attention to Eastern Europe, you had to rank a list of sketchy countries on the planet. Belarus is it's right there with North Korea. It's one of the sketchier places in the world. She couldn't criticize her coaches. There is this commission that she's a part of, the Belarusian Sports Solidarity Foundation, which means we will let you compete even if we hate you, because of all of the political unrest in Belarus. So kind of a bizarre story. This woman, she's just going to stay in Poland or Tokyo. Who's going to watch? It's trending all over Twitter, so you want to check that out. Moving on to other things that happen in the world of sports. Actually, we had an update. As I'm recording this, the United States women's national soccer team has lost to Canada for the first time in 36 matches. That was the highlight we opened with. I cut that in. The highlight that we opened with, the Americans have lost to Canada for the first time. That was in the semifinals. So now Canada will play the loser of Australia and Sweden for the bronze. Well, Canada will go on to the gold medal match. Sweden, of course, the defending champs. So America, the fact that they made it this far is actually, it's fine. They did not look great as they headed into the Olympics. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't look like the squad is as good as it used to be, or that their heads aren't in the right spot. They just were not 100% heading into the Olympics. So maybe they'll get a bronze medal out of it. We shall see. Men's soccer, the men win the CONCACAF Gold Cup. The Gold Cup, the CONCACAF, for those of you that don't know, is basically Central America, North America, Canada, U.S., Mexico, and a bunch of Central American countries, Jamaica, etc. They beat Mexico in the final 1-0. That means they win the Gold Cup, and whatever else comes with that, maybe some hope that perhaps could make the Final Four at a World Cup one day, but probably not. Who knows? Everyone was talking about that last night. Apparently, it was a good match for North American standards, which means that neither of these teams are top 20 teams in the world. An update on the MLB trade deadline. The poor Chicago Cubs, 3 of their best players homered in their debuts. I believe in order, it was Rizzo homered for the Yankees first, and then Javier Baez homered for the Mets, and then Chris Bryant homered for the Giants. Man, could you imagine a lineup that had all 3 of those guys in it at the same time? You'd probably want to keep those guys together, huh, Chicago? Who knows? All right, looking at NFL gambling, let's just take we're previewing the season. And the division I want to focus on, as I was going through some of the lines, was the NFC South. The NFC South, to me, is sort of fascinating and sort of not. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the heavy favorite to A, win the Super Bowl, and B, win everything else that goes along with winning the Super Bowl, including the division. It would appear that that's going to be the case when you look at teams in recent history that everybody agrees are a dynasty. That does tend to be true, but it tends to be rockier than people think. I'm thinking the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Chiefs. They lose some games here or there, and they maybe settle into being a dynasty later. But the Bucs are the only one where a huge portion of it is predicated on people who are getting quite old and slow. I'm thinking of Gronkowski, Tom Brady and Ndamukong Suh. They're not who they were 7 years ago. Otherwise, it would be even crazier. So we're looking throughout the division. We have the Falcons are picked to be, or the Panthers are the worst odds. They're picked to finish fourth, I believe. Then the Falcons, and then the Saints, and then the Bucks. As far as finishing in first place, I really like the idea of betting on the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to take a step forward. They're like plus 600 to win the division. That's not bad. They're plus like 300 to make the playoffs. I think the Panthers are pretty sneaky. They're a pretty good bet. Sam Darnold, we'll see if he's good. I don't think that he's good, but their defense. The Panthers is a narrative to watch. I think their defense is going to be legit. They play Philadelphia and the NFC North, or they play the NFC East and Detroit this year, so there's definitely some winnable games on the schedule for the Panthers. I think watch out for them. That's a bet that I really, really like. So we're going to continue to do some NFL previews this week. The Hall of Fame game, August 6th. It's right around the corner, so we'll be excited to look into that. I'm hitting the road for a couple days, so the quality of the show might go down just a smidge, but then I'll be back in the studio hopefully Friday, maybe next week. Everybody's traveling this time of year, it seems. Follow the show, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, etc., etc. Subscribe, live your best life. Enjoy yourselves. We're in August. We're football, like what, 5 weeks away? It's right around the corner.